Then we need to decrease what I call government creep with personnel. The FBI's footprint has gotten so freaking big, and the biggest problem the FBI has come out of its intel shops. I'd break that component out of it. I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening the next day as a museum of the deep state. And I'd take the 7,000 employees that work in that building and send them across America to chase down criminals. Go be cops. You're cops. Go be cops. Go chase down murderers and rapists and drug dealers and violent offenders. What do you need 7,000 people there for? Same thing with DOJ. What are all these people doing here? Looking for their next government promotion, looking for their next fancy government title, looking for their parachute out of government. So while you're bringing in the right people, you also have to shrink government.
So massive government reform.
Yeah. You got to work with Congress to eliminate the billets. This is one of the things we did when I was deputy DNI. We got to DNI and I was like, okay, what do all these people do? We've got the CIA, so why do I have analysts doing the CIA's job here? Why do I have a floor of them? Like, give me a good answer. I don't know everything. I don't know a lot. But if you can give me an answer that satisfies their existence, I'm all in. Well, we just have our own people. Okay, well, now we don't. And we went to Congress and zeroed out a bunch of billets, and they hated us for it.
Why? Why would Congress hate you for that?
Not Congress, the public. Congress is like, great, you saved us money. You're the only agency that returned money this year because we didn't spend our entire budget. We were literally funding seats with no humans in them for years. And what the government creep that I was talking about is these agencies go to Congress every year. And again, this is why it's a thing of decades. I need 5 more seats here. I need 10 more seats here. Okay, you keep doing that. How's that going? Oh, we'll fill that seat next year. We're in the process of, interviewing people for that section. And it keeps, no one returns money. It's the biggest fiction in government that you can't return money. Every agency and department that I've ever worked for, when it comes to the fiscal end of the year, they're like, go on trips, go spend money. What? Just give it back to Congress. We can't do that.
But what do you make of the combination here? Because that's kind of been the struggle, is Trump wants someone who can get confirmed by the Senate. I mean, especially given what played out today. But also he wants someone who is going to go in there and do what he wants. And he's been encouraged by a lot of people on the right to put Kash Patel in. What would a combination of that look like, do you think?
First problem she's having right now, she's talking to Andy McCabe, which she must not think people remember. He got fired for being an idiot. So you bring, again, how does the media destroy their credibility? You bring on people who have no credibility. This guy got kicked out of the FBI. He should have been arrested. But you hired him, paid him off, essentially, and brought him in to say, who Trump should hire in his administration. What kind of huevos does that is to bring a guy who got fired for him to tell Trump who he should hire?
So in my estimation, Caitlin, no part of the FBI's mission is safe with Kash Patel in any position of leadership in the FBI, and certainly not in the deputy director's job. So just as an example, the deputy director's job in the FBI is unique because, of course, the director is a political appointee, and the deputy director is typically a senior FBI agent, somebody who spent their entire career learning about the FBI, understanding its people, and doing its work. So the deputy director actually runs the FBI on a day-to-day basis. You're essentially the chief operating officer. I can tell you from my own experience, there is no way I could have successfully performed in that role without having spent
You didn't. You didn't successfully do that role. You got bounced. And again, Miss Smirky lady here doesn't even bring it up. Hey, Andy, wait. You just said successfully do your role. You got fired, bro. You got fired. What are you talking about? Of course not. Just sit there with a smirk on her face.
First 10 years of my career doing criminal work in the FBI and the next 10 years doing national security work. The scope of authority is enormous. I think I had about 78 or 80 direct reports when I served as FBI deputy director. 56 of those people ran entire field offices. So you are enmeshed in every aspect of the FBI's work. If you enter into that position with nothing more than a desire to disrupt and destroy the organization. There is a lot of damage someone like Kash Patel could do in a position like Deputy Director at the FBI.
You mentioned that director is a political job. Obviously, it's a president puts it in there. They have a 10-year term, so they're supposed to be insulated from politics, but obviously they can fire them.
A few moments later.
So I want to get your take on what former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe said about you. He targeted you specifically, saying that you would be dangerous. No part of the FBI's mission is safe with Kash Patel in any position of leadership in the FBI, and certainly not in the Deputy Director's job. From Andrew McCabe. Your reaction?
Well, look, my 16 plus years in government service as a public defender, as a national security prosecutor, as a civilian in Joint Special Operations Command, leading President Trump's counterterrorism missions, taking out Baghdadi, returning hostages, serving as his Deputy Director of National Intelligence, and lastly as Chief of Staff. The only thing I was beholden to was the United States Constitution. And yes, I was a lead investigator where he exposed the Russiagate crimes that Comey, McCabe, Strzok, and Page, and so many others committed. And we reported to Congress those oversight matters, and those were taken up through them in the right course to the American people. So if anyone has a complaint about that and questions my unwavering commitment to the Constitution, I'm happy to talk to them about it. I'm especially happy to talk to the media about it. But you can look at my record, and those calling me a danger, let's just ask them for a proof, a piece of evidence that actually shows I've committed any constitutional violations or any ethical quandaries, and I'd love to hear their response to this.
Yeah, it's interesting because all of this, when they were saying Russia, Russia, Russia with President Trump, they were actually missing what was a serious danger, and that was Communist China. And I know you've also done extensive work on the threat of Communist China. Talk to us about that in terms of what you see as the most important threats facing this nation right now.
It dovetails what we were talking about. These leaders of DOD, the IC, and everywhere else have to report back to the Senate their findings and revolve around their budgets and make sure that we are attacking our adversaries. So it's threefold for me. It's the CCP, it's Russia, and it's Iran. And it's what they're doing in space, especially that is concerning. They have taken a leap. Remember, people were laughing at President Trump when he created the Space Force. He did that brilliantly and with foresight. And what we need to do is take on the orbital landscape above the Earth's atmosphere and make sure we have the technology based on Elon Musk and company to take on these threats, the cyber capabilities they are doing to us. The CCP is inundating us with public companies, and also the sub-oceanic efforts that Russia and the CCP are undertaking must be at the top of the list, in my opinion, to take on so that we don't have a crushing defeat in our electrical grid infrastructure, and also that we protect the American people. And lastly, Iran. They are the world state sponsor of terror. They cannot have a nuclear weapon, and President Trump's mandate to remove them from the JCPOA and make sure they don't have access to the global banking system is something he needs to work with Congress on again to make sure our allies and adversaries align with the no-fail mission of the United States of America.
Well, and all of these things, you're just touching on some of the issues that we talk about, but I'm glad that you went to space there. But what about some of the other practical things that we've seen no response whatsoever? Continued intellectual property theft, a cover-up of COVID, fentanyl coming through our southern border, all of this Communist China, and we really haven't seen any response. Iran, the same thing. They had, efforts to kill President Trump, and yet no response from the Biden administration. I was told that, in fact, is an act of war. Again, he didn't respond to it until just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, right now is, I think, in my opinion, the most dangerous time, the sort of lame duck period where the president is not acting in the capability that needs to defend this nation. And what we need to do is have our leaders of the agencies and departments that were confirmed by the Senate show up and do their job and tell the Senate and the House of Representatives, these are our failures, these are our weaknesses, we need help, we need you to respond in this time of need. And those guys not showing up to the Hill and just deflecting their responsibility shows us how much more danger we are in. We know what President Trump's going to do, but he's 54 days away from taking the oath of office. Right now, we need the United States of America to remind those agencies and department leaders that they work for us, and the mandate that President Trump was given was to protect our borders, to make sure CCP fentanyl doesn't kill our children, to end the forever wars, to return our hostages, and make sure American global diplomacy is in great hands when President Trump ascends to the Oval Office on January 20th. And we must respect the will and power of Congress. I cannot stress that enough. The constitutional oversight oversight responsibilities of the United States House of Representatives and the Senate has been lost by the leaders of the deep state in Washington, D.C., and I think President Trump is going to restore that with his selections and his nominees.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, the public has also lost trust in a number of these agencies. Kash, how do you believe Americans will regain trust in our most important law enforcement agencies?
One thing. Exposure of corruption. Put out the documents, put out the evidence. We only have gotten halfway down the Russiagate hole. The people need to know that their FBI is restored by knowing full well what they did to unlawfully surveil them. The people need to know that there has been a de-weaponization, a defanging of the Department of Justice, and their houses of worship will no longer be raided. But they need to be shown the documents that said this was the reasoning they weaponized justice. And that, in my opinion, is how Congress can most importantly secure the trust or resecure the trust of these agencies and departments. President Trump is taking a huge first step with his monumental victory. Now it's up to Congress and the Senate to work with his leaders at DOJ and FBI to put out those documents. And I think DOJ goes a long way in that, but we're going to need cabinet secretaries who say, we don't fear the corruption that preceded us. It will make us powerful if we expose it to the American public.
Obviously, they can fire them. Again, this was CNN pushing this Mike Rogers thing as though he was the leading candidate. And they had no clue. They had no clue, so much so that I showed you earlier that Dan Scavino had to come out and go, nope, Mike Rogers doesn't have a shot.
In what universe does this make sense for President Trump as the chief magistrate of the United States in the MAGA movement overall, in America First overall, Jack Posobiec?
Steve, I got to tell you that Mike Rogers interview this morning on Fox News was probably the best one I've ever seen. Wow, I'd love if that Mike Rogers were the one that had been there all along. But unfortunately, this guy's up there, today saying, "Oh, I love President Trump and that seventh floor over there. They need a reality check and they need an attitude adjustment and we gotta clean out the cancer." I said, "Wow, that's incredible." Except, oh, wait a minute, I've got all the receipts on Mike Rogers, and let me just tell you something. You have been weighed and measured, and you have been found wanting. Okay? This guy was all in.
All day today, all day on X, people were posting all kinds of things that Mike Rogers said negatively about Trump. It was one after the other. And I thought to myself, how did Fox bring Mike Rogers on and expect that this guy was in the running for the FBI position? Knowing he had said, we're not even talking like, I don't agree with his policy. No, he shouldn't do this. He shouldn't do that. He's crazy. And you thought that he would just look the other way on this? You see the scorched earth that this guy is doing. You can see that. And you thought for some idea that he would want to bring this guy in. Big mistake.
On Russiagate. This guy was all in on the wiretapping of Trump Tower the first time. Who knows if Mar-a-Lago is being wiretapped right now? I don't even know, but I wouldn't put it past any of these guys. And Mike Rogers is sitting there the entire time, hanging out with James Clapper, hanging out with John Brennan, sitting next to General Michael Hayden of the NSA. The NSA.
No, hang on. The billet, you gotta make sure people understand the context. The billet, he was House Intel chairman. He was deep in bed with these guys. It was Devin Nunes. After we won, Devin Nunes, right? I think took over here. Or Rogers was one of the senior guys. That's why he was in bed with these guys from the beginning.
Because
correct?
Devin Nunes became the chairman of the House Intel Committee and actually started to dig into the truth about what was coming together in terms of Russiagate and in terms of James Comey. By the way, it was Mike Rogers who came. I was there. I was literally physically in the White House when on the day that Comey got fired. I was there. Tanya Tay was there too, by the way. And we were there. We get the news. run back to the room. It's all coming down. We've got the briefing sheet. And then all of a sudden, who goes up on TV? It's Mike Rogers. And Mike Rogers on TV saying, I don't believe any of this stuff about Comey. I think he's a good man. He's a good man. We should believe him. We should believe Comey. He's great. No, Comey was lying. They were all lying. The whole thing was a lie. And by the way, what do we find out now? And Solomon's got the reports, and Lee Smith and some of the other guys have the reports, that this was even going on before they had the Steele dossier. That the Steele dossier comes up later because they heard that Comey was looking for reasons to investigate Trump. Okay, so let's go back and let's be serious here for a minute.
You have to think, was Paul Ryan behind getting Mike Rogers to go on Fox this morning? Was Paul Ryan thinking he had some sort of influence and he was going to make this happen and get him on there and say, do whatever song and dance you need to do. We need you as our eyes and ears in Trump's administration. Oh, that's a good plan. Not knowing that people like Jack and Steve and all other kinds of people have so much on Mike Rogers. And you also have to believe if everybody else has these videos and statements and documents, Trump has it too. To this day, I don't understand how so many people underestimate this guy, as if he doesn't know the lay of the land.
Guys are trying to take out the populist nationalist movement, full stop. And Mike Rogers is someone who played footsies and patty cake with them the entire time. So yeah, they're all slipping and sliding on the couch over there on Fox this morning. But look, I'm not buying it because I've got the receipts, and because yes, I actually watched the great Caitlin Collins show last night. Oh, that was a wonderful show to watch. And then who do I see up there praising and extolling Mike Rogers? It's Andy McCabe. And
the one I just showed you. Of all the people you wouldn't want praising you, Andy McCabe is the person you don't want going on television with Caitlin Collins saying, "Yo, Mike Rogers is fantastic. Kash Patel, oh, no good, no good." That's almost like saying, so we need to bring in Kash Patel. That's pretty much what you're saying. So they put on basically somebody to trash Kash Patel to pump up Mike Rogers as if Trump would never see through it.
Andy McCabe, who was fired, by the way, not fired because of his politics, fired because of his lies, fired because of his corruption, and fired because of his actions. That was justice. That's why he was fired 3 days before his pension. And let's go back, by the way, Steve. You just very. Oh,
and by the way, sorry, I know some of you guys don't like interruption. To make sure he stayed quiet, remember, as Jack just said, he was fired 3 days before his pension. So he goes and sues and files grievances and everything else. And guess what? They paid him like $800,000. So of course now he's flush with cash. He'll shut up and he'll do the dancing. He'll do whatever jive you need me to do because I've been paid now.
There, Steve, because when Devin Nunes was made House Intel chairman ahead of Mike Rogers, who did Devin Nunes appoint to write the memo to be the lead investigator into Russiagate? Who was the guy? This is what it all comes back to. Who was the guy? Oh, right. It was a guy by the name of Kash Patel.
Kash Patel.